Sam Walton, Made in America, by Sam Walton with John Huey. Introduction. Imagine this for a moment. You're 27 years old. You've just come home from serving in the Army. You're ambitious, you're full of confidence, and you've scraped together every dollar you have, $25,000, a fortune at the time, to buy your very first business. It's a small, struggling variety store in a little town called Newport, Arkansas. You set yourself a goal, a big one. You want to make this the best, most profitable store in the entire state within 5 years. So you pour your heart and soul into it. You work from dawn till dusk. You're constantly experimenting, trying crazy new things. You put a popcorn machine out on the sidewalk, then an ice cream machine right next to it, and suddenly your store becomes the talk of the town. You're studying your competitor across the street, learning every move he makes. You're driving your trailer across state lines at night to find better deals on merchandise so you can pass the savings on to your customers. And it works. It works better than you ever dreamed. In just a few years, you haven't just met your goal, you've shattered it. Your little store is now the #1 variety store, not just in Arkansas, but in the whole 6-state region. You've built a life in this town. You have a young family, you're the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and you feel on top of the world. And then, one day, the landlord calls you into his office. He tells you he's so impressed with your success that he's decided not to renew your lease. He wants the store for his own son. Just like that, everything you've built is being taken away. You're being kicked out of town. It feels, in your own words, like a nightmare. For most people, a blow like that would be the end of the story. A crushing defeat. But for the young man in this story, Sam Walton, it was the most important lesson of his life. It was the moment that set him on a path to not just build another store, but to build the largest retail empire the world has ever seen, Walmart. Today, we're diving into his autobiography, Made in America. This isn't just the story of a business. It's the story of how a man from a small town in Oklahoma, who drove an old pickup truck his whole life, fundamentally changed the way the world shops. By the end of our time together, you'll understand the simple, powerful, and often unconventional rules he lived by. You'll learn how he turned devastating setbacks into his greatest opportunities, how he built a culture that competitors still can't copy, and how he proved that the secret to building something massive is to never, ever stop thinking small. This is the story of a true American original, and the lessons he left behind are as valuable today as they were when he was just getting started. Book summary. To truly understand the story of Walmart, you have to go back to a time and a place that feels a world away from today. Sam Walton was born in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, in 1918, and grew up right in the heart of the Great Depression. This wasn't just a tough time, it was a defining one. It was a time that forged his entire philosophy on money, work, and life. His father, Thomas Gibson Walton, was a man who loved to trade for just about anything: horses, cars, even a hog for a wristwatch so the family could have meat on the table. He was an honest, hard-working man who taught Sam the art of negotiation, but he didn't believe in taking on debt. Sam's mother, Nan, was fiercely ambitious for her children. She ordained from the beginning that Sam would go to college and make something of himself. Together, his parents shared one simple, unwavering approach to money: they just didn't spend it. This wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. Sam said they never thought of themselves as poor, but they learned early on that every dollar was something to be earned through hard work. When he was just a little boy, maybe 7 or 8, he started selling magazine subscriptions. His mother started a small milk business, and it was Sam's job to get up early, milk the cows, and then deliver the milk after football practice in the afternoon. He had paper routes from the 7th grade all the way through college. He learned a lesson that so many people miss today. A dollar represents a piece of your life. It's the result of your time, your energy, and your effort. And when you see it that way, you learn to respect it. You don't waste it. This deep-seated respect for the value of a dollar wasn't just a personality quirk, it would become the central, guiding principle of his entire business empire. Years later, when he was a billionaire, people were fascinated by the fact that he still drove an old pickup truck, wore a Walmart baseball cap, and got his hair cut at the local barber shop. His brother Bud put it simply, "It's just the way we were brought up." When a penny is lying out there on the street, how many people would go out there and pick it up? I'll bet I would. And I know Sam would. But it wasn't just about being frugal. Sam Walton was born with an almost superhuman dose of ambition and a passion to compete. He was the kind of person who had to be the best at whatever he did. When he joined the Boy Scouts, he made a bet with the other boys about who would be the first to reach the rank of Eagle Scout. He won, becoming the youngest Eagle Scout in the history of Missouri at the time. In high school, he wasn't just on the football team, he was the quarterback of an undefeated state championship team. He wasn't just on the basketball team, they were undefeated state champions too. He once said, "In my whole life, I never played in a losing football game." This wasn't just luck. It taught him to expect to win. It instilled in him a belief that if he planned, prepared, and worked harder than everyone else, he had a right to win. Later in life, when he was facing off against giants like Kmart, he saw them as just another rival team he had to beat. This competitive fire carried him through college at the University of Missouri. Even though he wasn't from a wealthy family, he became president of his fraternity, president of the senior class, and was even elected president of a massive Bible class with students from 2 different colleges. His secret to leadership was astonishingly simple. He said, "I learned early on that one of the secrets to campus leadership was the simplest thing of all. Speak to people coming down the sidewalk before they speak to you." He made it a point to know everyone, to call them by name, to make them feel seen. It was a lesson in human connection that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. He was paying his own way through school, running a newspaper delivery business that was earning him about $4,000 or $5,000 a year, a small fortune during the Depression. He was working so hard that by the time he was about to graduate, he was just plain tired. He had ambitions of going on to the Walton School of Finance, but he just didn't have the money. So when a recruiter from the J.C. Penney Company came to campus, he took the job. The salary was $75 a month. And just like that, on June 3, 1940, Sam Walton entered the world of retail. He loved it from the very beginning. He loved talking to customers, loved selling. But he had a problem. He was terrible at paperwork. He couldn't stand to keep a customer waiting while he fumbled with a sales slip. A traveling auditor from the head office named Blake used to get furious with him. He'd say, "Walton, I'd fire you if you weren't such a good salesman. Maybe you're just not cut out for retail." But Sam found a mentor in his store manager, Duncan Majors, a man who got him truly excited about the business. And one day, the founder himself, James Cash Penney, visited the store. Sam never forgot watching Mr. Penney show him how to wrap a package using as little paper and twine as possible, a small lesson in efficiency that stuck with him forever. After a stint in the Army during World War II where he couldn't see combat due to a minor heart irregularity, he knew 2 things for sure. He wanted to marry a woman named Helen Robson, and he wanted to go into business for himself. Helen was smart, ambitious, and strong-willed. She also had one very important rule. After moving 16 times in their first 2 years of marriage, she told him, "I'll go with you any place you want so long as you don't ask me to live in a big city. 10,000 people is enough for me." That one simple request would, in many ways, set the entire course for Walmart. It forced Sam to look away from the big cities where all the action seemed to be, and to focus on the small towns that everyone else was ignoring. So, in 1945, with $5,000 of his own money and a $20,000 loan from his father-in-law, 27-year-old Sam Walton bought that first Ben Franklin variety store in Newport, Arkansas. And that brings us back to where we started. He poured his life into that store. He was so green, he admitted he learned most of what he knew by constantly going across the street to spy on his competitor, John Dunham, whose store was doing twice the business. But Sam was a quick study. In his first year, he boosted sales from $72,000 to $105,000. The next year, $140,000. Then $175,000. Soon, he had passed his competitor. He was always experimenting. He argued with his suppliers. The Ben Franklin franchise wanted him to buy 80% of his merchandise from them, but Sam knew he could get better deals by going directly to manufacturers. He started driving his old car and a homemade trailer over to Tennessee, finding suppliers who would sell him goods for far less than the franchise price. He'd price those items low and just blow them out of the store. It was during this time that he had the single most important insight of his entire career. It came from a simple item: ladies' panties. He found a supplier in New York who could sell him panties for $2 a dozen. The franchise price was $2.50 a dozen, and he had been selling them at 3 pairs for $1. But with this new, lower cost, he could offer them at 4 for $1. And here is the simple, profound lesson he learned. As he put it, say I bought an item for 80 cents. I found that by pricing it at $1 I could sell 3 times more of it than by pricing it at $1.20. I might make only half the profit per item, but because I was selling 3 times as many, the overall profit was much greater. This is the very essence of discounting. By cutting your price, you can boost your sales to a point where you earn far more in total profit than you would have at the higher price. It sounds simple now, but at the time, it was a radical idea that went against the grain of traditional retail, which was all about protecting high markups. That little store in Newport became his laboratory, his university. And after 5 years of relentless work, it was the top-performing Ben Franklin in the entire region. He had done it. He had built the best. And then, he lost it all. In his excitement to get started, he had overlooked one small detail in his lease: there was no option to renew. The landlord, seeing his success, refused to renew the lease at any price and gave the store to his own son. Sam was devastated. He said it was the low point of his business life. He had been kicked out of the town he loved. But he also said it was probably a blessing. He was forced to start over, but this time, he knew what he was doing. He was 32 years old, and now, he was a full-fledged merchant. So, in 1950, he and Helen moved to the tiny town of Bentonville, Arkansas, population 3,000. He bought another small variety store on the town square, but this time, he made sure he got a 99-year lease. He named it Walton's Five and Dime. He had read about a new concept called self-service, where customers could pick items off the shelves themselves instead of having a clerk get it for them. He drove all night to Minnesota to see 2 stores that were trying it, liked what he saw, and made his new store one of the first self-service variety stores in the entire country. From that little store on the Bentonville Square, the empire began to grow, slowly at first. A second store in Fayetteville. Then another, with his brother Bud, in a new shopping center near Kansas City. By 1960, they had 15 stores, but Sam was getting restless. The variety store business was limited. He was hearing more and more about a new wave in retail: discounting. Companies like Kmart were just getting started, and a man named Herb Gibson was opening stores with a simple philosophy: buy it low, stack it high, sell it cheap. Sam knew this was the future. He went to his franchise, Butler Brothers, and pitched them on the idea of backing him in a chain of discount stores in small towns. They turned him down flat. He said, "The truth is, when those Butler Brothers folks turned down my discounting idea, I got a little angry, and maybe that helped me decide to swim upstream on my own." And swim upstream would become his mantra. If everyone else was doing it one way, there was a good chance he could find his niche by going in the exact opposite direction. Everyone in retail was focused on the big cities. The conventional wisdom was that a town of less than 50,000 people couldn't support a discount store. So Sam decided he would go where no one else would, into the small towns of America. He had to put up 95% of the money himself. Nobody wanted to gamble on his crazy idea. But on July 2, 1962, in Rogers, Arkansas, he opened the doors to a store he called Walmart. On the sign, he had two simple promises that would guide the company forever: "We sell for less," and "Satisfaction guaranteed." The first stores were, by his own admission, ugly. They were bare-boned buildings with concrete floors and wooden plank fixtures. When David Glass, who would later become the CEO of Walmart, saw one of the first stores in Harrison, Arkansas, he called it the worst retail store I had ever seen. There were watermelons stacked up on the sidewalk in the 115-degree heat, popping and making a mess. But inside, the merchandise was priced 20% less than the competition. Sam was running an experiment. Would customers in a small town come to a barn-like store just for the low prices? The answer was a resounding yes. The strategy wasn't just to go into small towns, it was how he did it. He called it market saturation. Instead of leapfrogging across the country like Kmart, he would build a distribution center, and then draw a circle around it representing about a day's drive. He would then fill in that circle, town by town, until he dominated the area. This strategy had huge benefits. It kept distribution costs incredibly low. It also meant that word of mouth did most of his advertising for him. When he had stores in every little town in a region, people just knew who Walmart was. To find the perfect locations, he used his airplane. He'd fly low over a town, turn the plane up on its side, and study the traffic patterns to see which way the town was growing. Then he'd land, find the owner of the property he wanted, and try to make a deal on the spot. As the company grew at an explosive rate through the 1970s, from 32 stores to 276 in a decade, Sam knew he couldn't do it all himself. He was a master at finding talent in the most unlikely places. He didn't care about college degrees, he cared about attitude and a willingness to work. He looked for what he called action-oriented, do-it-now, go type of folks, and he made them his partners. This is arguably the most important element of Walmart's success, the culture he built. It wasn't something that happened by accident, it was a deliberate, conscious effort to make every single employee feel like they were part of a team, a family. He started by calling them associates, not employees, a term he picked up from J.C. Penney and a trip to England. But it was more than just a name. In 1971, he started a profit-sharing plan for all associates. Anyone who had been with the company for a year and worked at least 1,000 hours was eligible. The company would contribute a percentage of their wages to a plan that was invested mostly in Walmart stock. Over the years, this plan has created hundreds, if not thousands, of millionaires out of truck drivers, stock boys, and hourly clerks. One truck driver who started in 1972 remembered Sam telling him, "If you'll just stay with me for 20 years, I guarantee you'll have $100,000 in profit sharing." At the time, he thought it was a joke. By the early 90s, he had over $700,000. Sam believed in a simple, powerful paradox. The more you share profits with your associates, the more profit will accrue to the company. Why? Because, as he said, the way management treats the associates is exactly how the associates will then treat the customers. And if the associates treat the customers well, the customers will return again and again, and that is where the real profit in this business lies. To build this partnership, he knew he had to share more than just money. He had to share information. From the very beginning, Walmart operated as an open book. He shared a store's sales, profits, and purchases not just with the manager, but with every single hourly associate. He believed that the more they knew, the more they would understand, and the more they understood, the more they would care. He pushed responsibility down to the front lines. He created a concept called store within a store, where department heads, many of them hourly associates, were treated as the managers of their own small businesses. They were responsible for ordering, merchandising, and tracking their own profitability. And he created a culture where ideas were forced to bubble up from the bottom. The famous Walmart people greeter wasn't some high-concept idea from an executive retreat. It came from a store manager in Louisiana who wanted a friendly way to welcome customers and deter shoplifters. Sam saw it, loved it, and fought for over a year to get it into every store, despite resistance from his own managers who thought it was a waste of money. Of course, the culture was also famous for being a little crazy. At the heart of it all was the Saturday morning meeting. Every Saturday at 7:30 a.m., hundreds of managers and associates would gather in Bentonville to talk about business. But it was never boring. Sam might start it by leading the University of Arkansas Razorback cheer. There were singing truck drivers, silly contests, and outrageous bets. One year, Sam lost a bet that the company couldn't achieve a pre-tax profit of more than 8%. His payoff was to wear a grass skirt and do the hula on Wall Street. It made headlines everywhere. People thought it was just a wacky publicity stunt. But Sam knew it was much more than that. It was about building spirit. It was about breaking down barriers. It was about showing that no one, not even the chairman, was too important to be the butt of a joke. As he said, just because we work so hard, we don't have to go around with long faces all the time. This unique combination of ruthless efficiency, obsessive customer focus, and a fun-loving, people-first culture became an unstoppable force. Walmart didn't just compete with its rivals, it learned from them. Sam was famous for being a student of the competition. He said he had been in more Kmart stores than anybody. He would walk through their aisles, talk to their employees, and try to figure out what they were doing right so he could do it better. When Kmart finally decided to take on Walmart in its own backyard, Walmart was ready. They didn't just survive the attack, they thrived on it, becoming even stronger and more confident. As the company grew into a Goliath, Sam worried constantly about it becoming bloated and bureaucratic. His solution was simple: think small. The bigger Walmart gets, he said, the more essential it is that we think small. Because that's exactly how we have become a huge corporation, by not acting like one. He insisted that the company's leaders stay in touch with the stores. His top executives were required to spend several days a week out in the field, visiting stores, listening to associates, and bringing back at least one idea that would pay for their trip. He fought to keep the corporate overhead to a bare minimum, operating on a lean 2% expense structure that he essentially pulled out of thin air. The executive offices were famously Spartan, with inexpensive paneling and simple furniture. As he saw it, every dollar wasted on fancy offices was a dollar that couldn't be passed on to the customer in savings. In the end, Sam Walton's story is a testament to a few powerful, timeless ideas. It's about having an unshakable commitment to your core purpose. For him, that purpose was always the customer. It's about sharing your success with the people who helped you achieve it. It's about staying humble, constantly learning, and never being afraid to break the rules and swim against the current. He never lost that hands-on, small-town merchant's touch. Even as a multi-billionaire, his greatest joy was walking into one of his stores, talking to a department head about her sales numbers, and seeing the pride in her eyes as she told him her plan to be number one. That, for him, was the real measure of success. Commentary. As we look back on the story of Sam Walton, it's easy to get caught up in the sheer scale of his success, the billions of dollars, the thousands of stores. But I think if you do that, you miss the most important part of his legacy. What truly stands out isn't the size of the empire he built, but the simplicity of the principles he used to build it. He wasn't a genius in the traditional sense. He didn't invent a groundbreaking new product. He wasn't a financial wizard from Wall Street. He was, at his core, a merchant. A shopkeeper from a small town who never forgot the fundamental truth of business: you exist to serve the customer. That was his North Star, and every single decision he made, every system he built, every piece of his culture, was designed to point directly toward it. There are 3 lessons from his life that I believe are especially powerful for anyone, at any age, who wants to build something meaningful. First, is the power of a bias toward action. Sam Walton was never one to sit around and philosophize. He was a doer. He experimented constantly. The popcorn machine, the self-service layout, the world's largest display of Tide, many of his ideas were just experiments. Some worked, some didn't. But he was always trying, always tinkering, always learning. He understood that you can't learn what your customers want by sitting in an office looking at reports. You have to get out on the floor, try things, talk to people, and see what happens. The computer can tell you what you sold, he said, but it can never tell you what you could have sold. That wisdom can only come from action. Second, is the profound impact of genuine partnership. So many leaders today talk about empowerment and teamwork, but for many, it's just talk. Sam Walton lived it. He shared profits, yes, but more importantly, he shared information and responsibility. He believed that the people on the front lines had the best ideas, and he created a system to listen to them. Think about the people greeter. That idea didn't come from a high-paid consultant. It came from a store manager trying to solve a problem. Sam had the wisdom to recognize a good idea when he saw it, and the humility to adopt it, no matter where it came from. He proved that when you treat people like partners, they will perform beyond your wildest expectations. And finally, there's the lesson of swimming upstream. Sam built his empire by going where no one else would, by doing what everyone else said was impossible. They told him you couldn't run a discount store in a town of 5,000 people. He proved them wrong. They told him he couldn't compete with Kmart. He proved them wrong. He had an unshakable belief in his ideas, even when no one else did. This isn't about being stubborn for the sake of it. It's about having the courage to trust your own judgment, to ignore the conventional wisdom, and to carve your own path. So, what can you take from this today? Here are a few simple actions inspired by the Walmart way. First, get your ear to the ground. Wherever you work, or even in your school or family, take some time this week to talk to the people on the front lines. Ask them what's working and what's not. Ask them for one idea that could make things better. And then, truly listen. Second, find something to celebrate. Sam knew that success is fueled by spirit and energy. Find a small win this week, your own, or someone else's, and make a point to celebrate it. Acknowledge the effort. Share the praise. You'll be amazed at how much it can lift everyone's morale. And third, think like a customer. In everything you do, whether it's a school project, a part-time job, or just how you interact with people, ask yourself, am I making things easier, better, and more valuable for the person I'm trying to serve? That simple shift in perspective is the foundation of every great business. We've journeyed through the incredible story of Made in America by Sam Walton today. We've touched on the major themes and the powerful stories that shaped his company. But a summary like this is really just an invitation. The real value comes from experiencing the book for yourself, from hearing Sam tell his own stories in his own plain-spoken, honest voice. If any part of his journey has sparked something in you, a curiosity, an ambition, a desire to build something of your own, then I encourage you to pick up a copy. It's more than just a business book, it's a manual for a life lived with passion, purpose, and an unwavering belief in the power of ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you've found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click that subscribe button. We explore the wisdom of the world's greatest minds and entrepreneurs right here, and by subscribing, you ensure you won't miss the next book we open together. Let's keep learning, and let's keep growing.